Hey there everyone, welcome in GraphQL Basics video tutorial series. My name is Azhar Sleem. In this video tutorial we are going to discuss about GraphQL and some intro video where we discuss what is GraphQL, the usage of GraphQL and a lot of things about GraphQL. So here we are in GraphQL.org and we'll discuss about all this, what is query language and what is GraphQL. Excuse me. This I already designed a GraphQL application, a basics application here. This one we will design and I explain one by one in upcoming video tutorials. And let's go back in GraphQL. It's their homepage and all the information about GraphQL. GraphQLi, which we already running in our system. So let's start. And the first question, what is GraphQL? So GraphQL was designed by Facebook, and if you look at the definition on the GraphQL homepage, GraphQL it's gonna say something like this. GraphQL is a query language for APIs and a runtime for fulfill those queries with your existing data. GraphQL will provide a complete and understandable description of data in your API. Gives client the power to ask exactly what they need and nothing more. Make it easier so to involve API over time and enable powerful developer tools. Yes, this is exactly the point where the definition is totally correct, but it's so hard to understand for general public like you and me. So let me break down this into smaller and easier syntax, so in that you can understand it. The main goal behind the design GraphQL was to make the queries smarter. Now so far we have been designed these queries and designs the endpoint such as API pretty easily, and the only problem with them it's overfetching or underfetching. Something the data is so less that you have to make another query, or something data is coming up the is so much that you don't use all the data. You just use the select the point of the data, nothing to big much of every. But when you are a scale of Facebook, we are billions and millions of people, and are just creating data every bit expensive on the cost of the server, because a lot of queries are behind fetching the data and it's transferred. So if we take a very simple example, let me just tell you what we want to fetch certain information on our website. For example, give me the name, age, height, and the highest score of the top 5 players, let's say, that played last World Cup. Yes, it can be done. We can fetch the queries, but now assume the data that you will be fetching, it will be surely an overfetching. You will be fetch a lot of information, and when will be nickpatching the information that actually being asked most of the our REST API application. So look something like this, maybe localhost colon 8000 slash player and other queries. Let's say your local host and your port then slash player ID. Then maybe another endpoint is your URL, means your base URL, localhost colon 8000 slash player slash ID slash country, something like that. Teams and something, it's often these endpoint which don't have any IDs, just give you all the information. So for the endpoints, and often these endpoint which do have an ID, these give you the information about the particular resources, but again information is completely full whether you require the information or not being served to your so the IDs, the hot information dumped, and for when you don't have ID, like it's a genetic information, and the point is only advantage we get when we mention the ID. uh, it's we are asking for a particular resource we are looking for, but still a lot of information is being done. I'm not getting just name, height, and the highest score of the player. I'm getting a lot of information, other information, like what is this the, let's say, excuse me, what is the you can say last name, what is the his email ID, username, and a lot of other information. Now imagine you are fetching up to 100 IDs. For example, you will be making 100 API requests, so it's very difficult and hard. API requests and 100 response will be given. You now you are collecting just 5 information out of that. Yes, that is very very cost expensive even for Facebook, but surely Facebook can afford uh, all of these queries, because 100 queries is like nothing for Facebook. But here Facebook eventually throw that, hey, we can cut down the resources if we act like a little bit smarter. Solution actually came in the from GraphQL. In GraphQL you can make selective endpoints, like you don't have dump endpoint, you can pick up selective information, or you can set that endpoint using GraphQL, and you can dig a little bit deeper into your API endpoints. And excuse me, and can pick selective information from it. Now if I had to compare the GraphQL and REST API, I would comparing the restaurant, such as example. Now here the REST API, I would be comparing it as a self-serving restaurant, uh, kind of buffet. And for the GraphQL, I would comparing it's a restaurant that is being served by a waiter. It's a very easy and you can say comprehensive, or not. You can say it's a very very simple example. You can understand the difference between GraphQL and the difference between both of them. Or you can say we are comparing GraphQL and APIs, REST APIs, where you are, let's say we have two restaurants, and one is self-comparing, which we called REST API. It would be comparing yourself as a self-serving restaurant, kind of buffet. And for the GraphQL, I would comparing it in a restaurant that being served by a waiter. So Now in a restaurant, uh, where you are served as a buffet, you just get up from the table, and you just go on the each and every table and select the dessert from the, maybe you will go select something like vegetables, some breads, or other thing. But on a restaurant which is served by a waiter, you actually make a smart decision. Just by sitting on your table, you ask waiter, hey, I need bread, I need pizza, I need like pasta, and I would like to have a sandwich as well. Waiter will go, and each every table will select the pick up all the required things that you have asked, and it's gonna serve to you. So that's actually smart decision. So now again, this should be considered as a GraphQL. GraphQL is all amazing, and yeah, it's awesome. Something your application actually don't need that kind of dig up into the information, and that kind of resources that you need to implement GraphQL. Remember, not everything that comes up as new. It's always rainbow and sunshine, and there are always pros and always cons. On the whole summary note, I would say, when your API becomes smarter, that's actually your GraphQL, and how you can select and pick up something, or use some selective information, just you collect require. So I'm gonna be picking up some question, and well, answering them related to the GraphQL first, and the most common kind of aimed the float around the GraphQL related graph database. The answer is no. It's not. Yes, I know it's involved the what graph. The graph database is here. It's somewhat kind of situation where Java and JavaScript being compared similar to like carpet, and they have car and carpet. You can say it like this. Similar, the GraphQL and graph database has the mostly nothing to do with the. Surely it can be implemented there as well, but the word graph here in the GraphQL simply means that queries are now able crawl into the REST API, just pick up the selective information. So that's why the name graph actually came up. The QL, you already know, it means query language. Your most important question that usually the new developer seek around the, it's should I just abandon the REST API, always should use GraphQL? There's like no usage of API, REST API now. I would say no. Most of the application now in present of the time recording this video, you don't actually need GraphQL now. Most of the application are working fine with the REST API, and you don't need to implement another resource, just have GraphQL. Now, I'm not saying you should not you can set here the answer, like I'm not saying you should not do that. If you don't if you do that, that's always doing to be advantages. and it's always gonna be fun. But there is no such high and immediately need that you should implement GraphQL. Remember, we are talking about the GraphQL where you have millions or billions of queries being thrown at a single day. Usually, that's not the case of the most of the application. And remember, it's that the case for you. Obviously, the we have the resources to implement the GraphQL. You will be earning that much for sure in present with Word. GraphQL is an amazing knowledge that you should look around, but this doesn't mean the REST API is gonna anywhere. There are still rock solid that I'm gonna say uh, stay here, and most of the applications still are just fine with the REST APIs. So your application is gonna see like a high endpoint difference in the performance when you will apply the GraphQL. Surely for the Facebook it's a night and day difference, but for the most of the application that you and me we are designing are working on, it's not gonna be such a much too much difference. So this is you can say the whole story, or we understand with a simple example about GraphQL. I hope so it will be clear. I give a lot of simple example, a restaurant example, and our API endpoint examples. If you have something more, you can ask below in the comments, and I'll try to go to GraphQL.org, and you can read the information, the same information which I told, but I speak in simple and easy words. So if you go to learn, here's an introduction and all the tutorials you can learn from here about the fields, fragments, and operation name, variables, and next here code. It's language which are supporting like JavaScript, Go, PHP, Python, Kotlin, Java, Flutter, Scala, Ruby, and Julia Party, Swift, blah blah, and all the syntax here you can find. Here they have a community, Facebook group, Twitter, and they have IRC, Slack, Discover blog, and videos. A lot of communities you can join them. And here's FAQs, and here about the specification you can set by the year. It's publicly released in 2015, but the GraphQL was found in 2012 and publicly available in 2015. Code of conduct and foundation. Here they have foundation.graphql.org, which we'll discuss later, and landscape. So what is landscape GraphQL? I have to check about this GraphQL. Let's see what is this. The GraphQL landscape PNG PLD is dynamically generated below. Okay, it's a tool something like that, and services database which is generating, and card mode. So we will explore later what is GraphQL landscape. And here the application which I designed. In next tutorial I will show you the demo, and then we'll start. If I run, it's giving us a syntax error because we didn't pass still any query. And here's something in line 32 in column 1. I have some problem here in line 32. Yeah, Okay, I will fix it. And so that's for this video tutorial. See you in next one.